Hey guys, and welcome back to a new Whatif, and it's my first time doing a My Hero Academia one. And this Whatif is going to be, what if Deku had the Omni quirk? And I bet when you hear this, you either thought of one thing or another. You either thought of, in the comics, the Omni power, like Silver Surfer's power, or you thought of the Omni King. I'm sort of gonna combine them both, but mainly the Omni King version. His quirk's gonna be the power of creation or destruction, and basically it's a god quirk. So his main ability, which he will discover, I'll just give you that hint there, is whatever he imagines / wishes for to be his quirk. So he can be fighting, he just thinks, okay, fire, and he can create like a fire quirk, like endeavors like that. So that's gonna be one of the main abilities of his quirks, but he will unlock others as he goes on. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy this. If you did, make sure you hit the like goal, which is gonna be 50 likes. And I know that's a high like goal compared to my others. It's just because this is because My Hero Academia isn't like other Whatifs like Naruto Whatifs. There's a lot less material, so most of these are gonna be about 5 episodes at max. But now it's season 4 actually, I might go up to 7 episodes. Anyway, first things first, we're gonna start with Deku as a child. He was in the park with Bakugo. I'm gonna stop speaking like that. He was in the park with Bakugo, and they were messing around, playing, and Bakugo's recently unlocked his quirk, which means he's slowly becoming more and more arrogant, and Deku's still thought of as quirkless, should we say. And, well, yeah, we'll stay with quirkless. And as Bakugo's making his explosion in his hand, he decides to let's go on a walk, as he knows of a special abandoned place no adults are allowed to go. You will know this from the original show. So as they gather everyone together, they start marching with Bakugo ahead. As they're walking, Bakugo's singing a tune, make it what you want. Sorry about that ding. And as he's doing this, just like in the original, he falls off the log. Deku jumps down to save him, unlike the original, flying down, not run to the end. And as he grabs Bakugo's hand, he's thinking, fly, 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 and he opens his eyes. He's floating, and Bakugo's mouth is wide open. And as he thinks this, he's like, no, Deku's thinking, no way, am I flying? And he starts floating upwards. And Bakugo starts going, Deku, you awakened your quirk. I guess it's flying. And everyone starts applauding, and Bakugo, unlike the original, where he thought Deku was quirkless and went to save him. Now that Deku used his quirk, Bakugo's less offended by this. And he flies Bakugo up to the log, and they rush to Deku's house. Well, Bakugo and Deku rush to his house. The other two that are irrelevant don't. When they get there, Deku busts through the door, and his mum says, what's wrong? As Deku seems a bit frightened in her perspective, and he starts screaming, Mama, I awakened my quirk, I can fly! And at first his mum thinks, oh, maybe you was imagining it, hun. Until Bakugo says, no, I fell off a log, and I fell off a cliff, and he jumped down and saved me, and he flew up. And Deku's mum's thinking, maybe this is true. And she looks at Deku and says, okay, can you control it? And Deku thinks to himself, okay, let me try. He bends down and jumps. Nothing happens. He says, damn it, it should be working. Then Bakugo says to him, try to remember what you were thinking or feeling when you first did it. And Deku said, alright, I said to myself. He closes his eyes and concentrating and thinks, fly. Then he jumps. And Deku's mum and Bakugo are in shock. He's floating. And Deku opens his eyes and starts laughing. I told you, Mum, I told you. And starts flying around the room. Deku's mum instantly rushes into the hospital to get his quirk tested. And when the doctor sees him, he expects it's just Deku holding on to the last strain of hope, trying to see if he 100% doesn't have a quirk. Until he realises, wait a minute, Deku's off the ground. Not Deku, I mean, Izuku Midoriya's off the ground. And he's like, oh, and he rushes over and says, I see. I guess I was mistaken. You do have a quirk. And I guess it's flying. And Deku starts laughing, saying, yes, yes, I can be a #1 hero now. I'm gonna be just like All Might with his super strong punch. Deku thinks this to himself. And he punches the wall and he says this as a joke. Then the wall explodes with the pure force of Deku's punch. Unknown to Deku, he just thought about having a super strong punch. And that became his quirk all of a sudden. The doctors and Deku's mum are confused, thinking, wait a minute, is your quirk super strength from flight? And Deku says to himself, super strength from flight. And he flies up. He said, wait, I still have flight. And he punches the wall again. And it explodes again. And he's like, damn. And he looks at his hand a bit. That hurts. I wish I had like super endurance so I'd never get hurt. And then Deku feels like shiver in his body and says, well, that isn't really helpful now. I'm already cut. I wish I had super healing. And that's when his hand heals over. The doctors are yet again in shock and ask Deku to punch the wall yet again. He does this. This time his skin doesn't split. Deku keeps on adding to his quirk, thinking, wait a minute. And he says to the doctor, we need to test my quirk, right? And Deku's mum, a bit shocked out of this, rushes him into the room without even the doctor telling her. And they start their test. They ask Deku what happened before he awakened his quirk. And Deku said, well, I jumped off a cliff to try to save my friend. And when I grabbed into his hand, all I could think was fly, fly, fly. And then I opened my eyes, I was flying. And then the doctor said, okay, what about when you punched the wall? You said something about you wishing you had a super hard punch. Yeah, I did, I guess. And then he says, wait, could it be you asked for super hard skin or something? And Deku looks at him and says, how did you know? I asked for it's like super endurance so I never get hurt. The doctor starts thinking, could it be? No. And he says, wait. And then the doctor asks one final question. Did you ask for super healing? Deku's thinking and says this out loud. Is your quirk telepathy? Because how do you know everything I asked? The doctor automatically pulls Deku's mum aside and explains what he thinks his quirk is. He explains, I think your son has a quirk. Whatever he wants becomes his reality. Whatever he thinks. And they decide to test this. He asked Deku to ask for super speed. He asked Deku to say, I wish I had super speed. Or at least think it. And Deku does this. Then he goes over the racetrack as the doctor said to do. And he starts running. To Deku, the world seems to slow down quite a bit. And then he realises, wait a minute, I'm moving fast. As he starts slapping around the track like the Flash. The doctor stumbles backwards, now confirming what he thought. He calls up UA already and explains Deku's quirk. And everyone's shocked by this. And they decide Deku needs to enter some sort of training. That's if he wants to. And when this gets explained to Deku and explained he can get took out of school if he wants to train, Deku declines this. After learning what his quirk was, he thinks of ways that he could train better himself without any restrictions. And this is what Deku does. Over the next few years, Deku explores his quirk. And he realises something. It's not only can he get whatever quirk he wants, he has unique abilities as well. He seems to be immune to telepathy now. And ever since his quirk awakened, without even saying it, he seems to develop muscles. Not like full-blown six-pack, abs and all that, but a six-pack seems to be starting to form, and he's actually grown in height. He's looking at his hands, and he goes on objects and thinks, my mum has telepathy, right? And he starts to slowly attempt to lift the rock, and it does, but then it drops. He feels a strain. He then realises, wait, I asked for my mum's quirk. Her telepathy's quite weak, isn't it? And he thinks, I want the strongest telepathy there is. Not telepathy, the control things with the mind. I want to be like a psychic. I want to move things with my mind and make explosions. And as he does this, Deku picks his hand out again and effortlessly lifts the rock. As Deku trains more and more, he prepares for the UA exam, now believing that he has a shot at getting in and becoming the #1 hero. And at school, Deku's life's changed quite a bit. Now everyone knows that his real quirk is as it is. He's getting a lot more respect. And Bakugo treats him as a righteous person. Like a real friend. This is where Deku thinks about saying, I can have any quirk I want. What if I have the ability to take quirks? As he says this, a red aura appears around Deku as he starts to glow. He rushes towards Bakugo and asks to test something. Bakugo agrees, and Deku tells him to start making a little explosion in his hand. He does this. Then Deku touches him. The explosion seems to rush into Deku, and Deku gains that power. Bakugo attempts to use his explosion again and can't. This way he looks at Deku and sees Deku doing it. He screams, Deku! I'm not going to do that. He screams, Deku, what have you done? And Deku says, calm down, I can fix it. He closes his eyes shut again. I don't want this quirk. I don't want the ability to take others' quirks. I want the ability to give any quirk I wish. And then he points out and gives Bakugo the same quirk, but this time he modifies it. He creates the backlash on Bakugo's arms, which he's noticed slightly, and he reduces this. And he increases the power of the explosions that Bakugo can produce. When Bakugo attempts to make a little explosion in his hand, this time it's a medium-sized explosion. And he says, hey Deku, what did you do? And Deku says, I just made your quirk a bit stronger. But after this ability gets heard of, multiple heroes begin to look at Deku and attempt to sign them up as soon as he becomes an academy student, a UA student, which everyone knows he wants to do and everyone believes he can. But the only person that Deku wants to catch attention of is All Might, and the only person who he hasn't got the attention of is All Might. Anyway, now we're going to go to where Deku's walking home after that day, learning what he can do. And as he walks home, he senses a presence. But before he can even react to this, he sees a slimy creature rush at him. Thanks to his super speed, Deku manages to dodge the first attack. But this is where it laps back around and slabs. I don't know, and that puts itself all over Deku, choking him slowly, just as it was in the original. This is where the slime creature says, hey, you will do fine, kid. You'll be my next wrestler and I'll get out of this town before anything happens. Deku's losing consciousness and he wants to think of a plan, but he can't. He's slowly losing consciousness. This is where he thinks, I wish I'd done a quirk where I didn't need oxygen. Deku's panting. Now not needing oxygen, he just doesn't, and he decides this ability I'll get rid of later. The slime creature's panicking, thinking, why aren't you dead? Oh, I guess you have an ability where you don't need air, huh? This is where All Might appears. He's about to go save Deku, until Deku looks at him and tells him to stop, just with his pure glance, and All Might recognises this glance as he's gave it many times before. Deku puts his hands in the air and says, I wish I had the ability to summon lightning. He thinks this at least. Remember, he doesn't need to say this, he thinks it. And his hands get coated in lightning. The slime creature's shocked, thinking, I thought your ability was oxygen. But Deku cuts him off by sending the lightning right through the slime creature's body. And we forget, this creature was made up of a lot of water, being a very good conductor. And Deku fries him. This is what All Might picks the slime creature up in a bottle and attempts to jump off, thanking the young man. And this is where Deku asks him a question. But this time it isn't the question. Do you think I can be a hero without a quirk? He says. Oh my quirk seems to be amazing. Everyone's giving me attention. Do you think that people like me for who I am, even if I didn't have this amazing quirk? And All Might thinks, listen kids, a lot of people can control lightning. Isn't that amazing? This is where Deku's a bit shocked and he says, that's right, you don't know my quirk, do you? I have an Omni quirk. All Might shocked, thinking, I've heard of the kids who had something called an Omni quirk. He can create whatever quirk he wants, right? And he looks at him and says, so you're the kids. And All Might starts laughing and says, I'm sure you would be a fine young man, as a lot of people with your power would attempt to take over the world. But you've seemed to have accepted it and lived a normal life. I've even heard you turn down special training and are guaranteed access to UA. And Deku smiles and says, yeah, that was me. And All Might says, anyway, I need to go put this monster in prison. So guys. And he jumps off. But this time, unlike Deku grabbing onto him, Deku's flown after him and says, wait. And All Might lands on the building. His time's running out. And he starts coughing slightly a bit of blood. And Deku asks him what's wrong, but before he can even get to him, All Might's deflated. And Deku's shocked just like in the original and begins to think, wait, you're an imposter, aren't you? You pretended to be All Might with a quirk, didn't you? And this is what All Might calms his suspicion and says, no kid, it's fine. I just have an injury. And they get in the same talk. And blah, 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 blah. This is where Deku thinks, maybe I could heal this. And then decides, no, I need to do something else. And that his answer would depend on what I do, as I'm not a charity anymore. I'm not just going to focus on everyone else. I'm a human too. I have my own needs. All my life I've been attempted to help people, and not a lot of them have even attempted to help me at all. So now I want something in return. He goes to All Might and says, All Might, I might be able to heal your injury under one condition. All Might looks up and says, what's your condition? And Deku smiles and says, please make me your apprentice. And bows. All Might's shocked and thinking, probably the strongest person in the world wants to be my apprentice, and he's offering to heal my injury. All Might sits there and thinks about this a while and says, wait a minute. One for all not only gives you the super strength quirk, it boosts your quirk as well. He thinks, what if I give him that? What will his abilities become? And All Might looks at Deku and says, alright kids, I accept your request, but there's something else I need to give you. But before All Might can even finish his sentence, an explosion's in the background. All Might's shocked, and as he stands up, he realises the bottles fell out of his pocket. And before All Might even reacts, Deku's jumped off the building, flying towards where it was. Flying towards the explosion. And when he lands, he sees it's Bakugo. Unlike the original, where Bakugo's explosions stopped being enough, his explosions are far stronger this time, and he starts to blow away the slime monster. This is where the slime monsters have enough, and decides not to choke Bakugo out, but just to kill him all, just to hold him as a hostage and kill him after. So now the slime monsters just surrounded Bakugo fully, slowly entering his body that way. Deku, using super speed, runs up, and unlike the original beating him off, he jumps into the slime villain. And jumps in and says, let go of Kajan. And with his electricity and super punch, he punches the slime creature from the inside, electrifying it and slamming it into the ground. Then he thinks to himself, he's slowly losing it. He literally lost his best friend in the world. Imagine if your best friend nearly died. Think about it like this. He starts going, you need to pay. You need to suffer. And I have the power to do so. I will make you suffer endlessly for what you've done. And you might be wondering, what's going on with Deku? Remember, the Omni power can corrupt. And it's very powerful. It has the power to create life and destroy it. And this is where Deku unlocks one of his darker abilities. He puts his hand out and his eyes turn pitch black. And a void opens. A black hole, it seems to be. This is the dimension to another world with endless torture of heroes sent to it. And it starts to suck in the slime creature until it's finally all gone. Deku clicks his fingers, and everyone around him's a bit scared, thinking, that's the Omni Kid, right? What was that power? And Deku looks at them with his pitch black eyes as they fade back to green and says, oh, that was just one of my... and decides to play it off as he himself didn't know what that ability was. And he says, oh, I just used my quirk to make another dimension. And I stored the slime creature in there. He will never get out. And everyone starts being, oh, okay, phew. And the heroes don't even scold him at all for using his quirk, thinking, if I try to scold him, he will easily beat me. And I don't want to go to that dimension myself, do I? And Deku gets rewarded with this, and he goes back to All Might. All Might congratulates him and says, you'll become a fine hero with that power, but I want to offer you something else. I want to offer you my quirk. Deku's confused, thinking, what do you mean your quirk? All Might gives Deku the explanation, saying, my quirk is known as One for All. I can pass it down generation, each time increasing the power. Deku says, okay, what's that going to help me really? I could just copy it. And All Might says, no, there's one thing you can't copy. The main power of One for All is that it can multiply someone else's quirk by, I could say 100 folds, but normally it's about 2. Just because when someone takes it in, takes the quirk on, they don't have any of their potential unlocked. And Deku's shocked, thinking, wait, were my quirk that boosted 100-fold? What would I be able to do? And this is what All Might says. That's why I want to give it to you. You could become a god, a devil, a villain, or the world's greatest hero. And this is sort of a necessity. If you become my apprentice, you have to accept my quirk. And Deku smiles and says, fine then, I guess I accept your quirk. And I'm going to leave it here then, guys. I hope you enjoyed, because I enjoyed making it. And tell me what you think of my first My Hero Academia Whatif. And remember, 50 likes. Anyway, other than that, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like, subscribe, enjoy. Let's try hit 3K. And as some of you might have seen in my community tab, I'm going to shout out a random channel when I hit 3K. So other than that, please like, subscribe, enjoy, and peace.